Welcome, it's Jeremy Allen Gould. I'm coming to you today to confirm between God and of man that in fact the rumors that you have all heard are true. I started this podcast because I freaking love music. I was privileged enough to book amazing artists and bands in the past, and I was lucky enough to stay in touch with many of them to this day. This is a place to hear their stories. Thank you so much for riding along on this journey, and I hope you enjoy what you hear. With that said, the rumors are definitely true. Welcome back. This is the Rumors Are True podcast. Today I welcome my good friend Jeremy Smith. Jeremy plays bass for John Mark McMillan, Mack Brock, as well as $1,000 Movie, and formerly of Public Radio. Jeremy and I talk about him growing up, all the records he's played on, and coming to his own in the recording process on some of these amazing John Mark records, as well as the new $1,000 Movie EP out on his label, Four Finger Records. So do me a favor, check it out. It's amazing. You'll dig it. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoy this latest episode with Jeremy Smith. Jeremy, what's up, dude? Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, man. I was stoked to be aboard.
Bro, how you been?
I've been great, man. Yeah, it's been a busy few weeks. I don't have any shows this week, so I'm not having to cram any music. So even though I'm still working on stuff every day, it kind of feels like a vacation week.
I bet. What have you been up to lately other than these shows? You know, they just fly out dates for John Mark or?
Yeah, and I had someone, Mack Brock.
Yeah,
I go out with him occasionally, which is always a good time. We're good friends. And but with him, he doesn't like to rehearse, which I don't either, but, you know, it has its pros.
Sure.
But so, you know, we had like a 2-hour set and no rehearsal in LA.
Ooh.
And so like, you know, I love it because it's like one less day of meeting up and triangulating schedules. But, you know, you got to show up locked and loaded, ready to walk on stage and play. So,
oh my gosh. Does Luke Anderson play with him?
He kind of has a rotating cast.
Oh, okay.
And Luke's one of them. So Luke did this last one, which was a lot. I haven't got to play with him in a while. Yeah, so you have to cram so much to be ready, you know, when
I can't imagine.
We play occasionally. But I also kind of like the challenge of it. And
sure.
And it says a lot to me too. Like, okay, well, he trusts that I can pull this off. That's why he
absolutely.
You know. But yeah, all that being said, it was a good time. But I had a John Mark one off before that, and we haven't played since October. So it's kind of, if I haven't played a song in 24 hours, it's like I've played it before. So
that's awesome, though, man.
Yeah.
How's family life going, man?
Oh, it's going good, man. This is got Hank right here hanging out with me. If you hear any assorted jingle jangling, I think I got all his squeaky balls up, so there shouldn't be any. He likes to find the loudest toy every time I'm doing a podcast.
Of course he does.
But yeah, doing good, man. Other than that, it's been off the road since October. So yeah, good family time, good time with all the homies.
That's awesome.
Yeah, getting to hang out with Hank a bunch, which is all I want to do.
Yeah, man. Sweet, dude. So I want to go back to kind of when you and I met. I think it was probably 2015, 2014, maybe. I don't even really remember, but
it was a early one.
Yeah, we met, I think, at a John Mark show in Jacksonville, and then I came up to Charlotte with Jonathan Berlin to help with the Live at the Night live recording up there, and so we got to bro down quite a bit there. And every time you've come through, we've hung, and it's been awesome, and you're amazing, and I love hanging with you guys. And
yeah, no, it's always get stoked to do Jacksonville. It's like, oh, we're gonna hang out with Gould.
Every time I see pinball machines now, you literally pop in my mind immediately. Anywhere I go, I'm like, Jeremy would like that pinball machine.
I would. You're right.
Oh, anyway. So, Jeremy,
Franklin Hill did theater. We met.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I thought you had stopped talking. Yeah, Murray Hill Theater for sure. It was in Jacksonville, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I think it was like their anniversary show. I think.
Oh yes. Yep, that was right.
I feel like Ascend the Hill played too, and somebody else. I don't remember.
Those guys who are awesome.
Dude, amazing guys.
Yeah, amazing. We've done a few little runs with them since, and it's always a blast. They're really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Dude.
It's funny, I make the joke about it from the stage there sometimes, but most similar-sized venues, the graffiti is all like, wieners and profanity. And, the green room at Murray Hill Theater is all like so encouraging. And
I know. I was gonna say every time I went there since I was a kid. I'm like, dude, like anytime I go there, it's like cheesy like uplifting things or like Christian rock, band stickers and stuff and whatnot. But it's cool because it's like, pseudo punk rock, but it really isn't at all.
Right, sure, yeah.
That place is awesome.
Great. It's great room.
I just went and saw this band called World Gone Cold there the other day, and it's like guys from POD and Demon Hunter. It was awesome actually. I'm not really, I just know a little bit of their music, but I just wanted to hang with Trey from POD.
Yeah, right. That's all any of us ever want.
I know, right? That's like that's what it's all about. So, dude, let's talk about you growing up, man. Tell me kind of how growing up was for you and how music kind of came into your life and maybe some bands and records that kind of influenced you.
Totally. So I grew up in Hartsville, South Carolina, which is about an hour outside of Charlotte. We grew up we were in a house in a trailer park. My mom always wants me to make sure I point that out because I said I grew up in a trailer park before she got married. I was like, okay, we were surrounded by a trailer park. But, nothing against trailer parks, but if you're from the South, I painted a good picture for you.
Yes.
So yeah, it was a cool little town though. It's gotten way cooler in recent years, but it wasn't the worst place to grow up. I had some cool friends, but we got sent to a Christian school when we were for junior high. Me and my older brother. And I think my parents did it to keep us out of trouble, but all the kids who went to this Christian school got kicked out of other schools. And so it was kind of like all the bad kids got kicked out of public school. And so that was, it sucked and I hated it. But the good thing about it is a lot of those kids skateboarded and were into punk rock.
It's great.
So when I was 12, I started getting to skating and I met some cats with the cool older brothers that would let us borrow CDs. And so I immediately was starting to get into, and we were kind of latchkey kids sometimes too. So I was watching MTV a lot, even though I wasn't supposed to. So, I grew up in the 90s. So I was into Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all that. But then I heard Green Day. I remember exactly hearing Green Day for the first time and the bass tone on that record. Like, I asked my friend, like, what instrument is that making that sound? And he's like, I think that's a bass. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be a bass player and you'll be a guitar player. And we're going to start a band. And so I got a bass for, so that was kind of got it in us. But then at the same time, we were like, the idea of starting a band was so, we didn't know how to do that. Or like, How do you write lyrics? How do you like get famous and be on MTV? But then we started getting into more like punk rock proper. And I got to hear the Descendants and their song "I Like Food," which is a 16-second song about food, and it's like fast as crap. And that's when I realized, like, oh, you can write a song about anything. It doesn't have to be this poetry like Nirvana or Pearl Jam or like, you know, even Green Day at the time, you know, their stuff wasn't always so literal. Like, you could really write a song. Like, just had a song on that album called My Dad Sucks, and it was about how they didn't like their dad, you know? Like, okay, so just write a song about anything you want. And so I got a bass for Christmas that year, and we started a band called the Tidy Whities.
Oh. Nice.
And it was as pop punk as you would imagine based on the name of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Descendants and the Minutemen and the Ramones early on were like really big bands for me, just to like. Absolutely. They all kind of gave you permission, you know, to do stuff. You know, the legend goes every city the Ramones played in, a band started the next day, you know? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You see it, you think, oh, I could do that. You can't as well as them, you know? But I think it just gives you like permission to try stuff. And, sure. But also all those bands are kind of fun and cool and creative. So, but you know, I was really into like all the 90s skate punk going on too, like NoFX and Pennywise, Bad Religion, any band on Epitaph Records or Fat Records, I would buy it pretty much. That's awesome. Yeah, any kind of you know, that was my jam. And about at age like 15, I got to see this band called the Deadlines. Oh yeah. Tooth and Nail band. Yeah, I've seen them. Oh, dude, it was awesome. And they were all about like the horror punk thing. Yeah. And I kind of knew of the Misfits because of the logo, but I didn't know them like their music super well. And we hung out with those guys, and they put on the best show. There was like 5 people there. But after that, we got like, they were like, oh, if you like us, you should check out the Misfits. We're like, okay. So I get Collection 1 by the Misfits, and it like changed my mind. But, yeah, because it was still fun, but it was like darker and heavier. So I got really into like any Danzig related project and started getting into a little metal, but it was still like hardcore and punk was kind of the thing for me. But I love the spooky stuff, and I still do. You know. Yeah. I send my mom the song, Danzig song "Mother" every Mother's Day, and she's like, "What is this?" That's great. I love that song. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I started a band called the Coffins once we got into the horror thing. Oh. And we kind of did that. I wish it was easier to record back then because it felt unattainable because none of us knew how to do it. Sure. So I don't have a lot of remnants from it, but I moved to Charlotte when I was 18, and so with the hope of joining a band. So yeah, those were all my high school things. So that was kind of growing up. I didn't play any sports, nothing extracurricular. It was just skateboard and like band practice every day. Yeah. That's all I wanted to do. That's really cool, dude. Yeah. Is that kind of what led to public radio, or is that kind of what materialized after you moved to Charlotte? Yeah. So I moved to Charlotte and end up in a house with like some random guys through this like rental thing, and one of the guys ended up being Luke Hill. Yeah, I know Luke. Yeah, and the other 2 guys in the house were very, very strange birds, and it made me and Luke bond even more. And also, it's like, oh, you play drums, I play bass. Yeah. So we met like my first day in Charlotte, and eventually when public radio starts, he's the drummer. So the foundation for that band was kind of starting right away. Yeah. And we would jam a little bit. So we went to this ministry school together, and bands like they would have like music every day. So it was really cool, and that was one of the main reasons I went there, was to meet other musicians, and it seemed really cool at the time, and a lot of creative people were going there. So my first day there, I meet John Mark, and then lots of other, like, they would bring in all these cool musicians to like do their songs, and so I was just getting to meet a lot of really cool cats, but I was getting to play with all these great musicians, and I barely knew a major scale, but everybody needs a bass player, so I was kind of like learning on the job a lot, which was cool. That's awesome, actually. Yeah, so me and Luke were kind of like best friends. We were best man at each other's weddings, and so not too long after that, he's in a band called Paper Tongues, and they go on tour.
Yeah.
I go as their merch guy, and I was out for a month with them. I got home for a week, and then I went out for a month with John Mark on his very first tour. But I was getting to play bass on that one. So awesome. 2 months I got to circle the country twice, basically, which was
who all was playing in that when you guys went out?
With John Mark, it was Jordan Hardy on drums.
Oh yeah, I know Jordan.
Yeah, and Seth Worley on guitar. They were both like 18 probably at the time.
Oh my gosh.
They were little babies, and then it was me on bass and Mark Mathis, singer-songwriter who would be in public radio. He went out too, and their whole thing was to like kind of share a band, and because they grew up together. And I don't think they'll mind me saying this because they're homies again, but on that tour they were just kind of like button heads a lot. And so boys were always in the back like, ooh, but I think they had this plan to like, oh, we'll share a band and we'll tour, and it'll be easier because we'll just have one band and we can trade off songs or whatever. And it was a really cool tour because I was a big fan of both of their music. They both put out like an early record each. And John Mark had just written How He Loves. And Mark had some songs that were getting some momentum too. So it was really cool. But by the end of it, it was very obvious that they were not going to be doing the split band ever again. So it was really funny. I get home and I get a call from Mark. And he's like, hey, man, you want to start a band with me? And I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. But I was confused because in my head, I thought we were already doing this band thing, and he's like, okay, cool. And it was a really short talk. And then not 5 minutes later, John Mark calls me and he's like, hey, man, do you want to start a band with me?
Oh, my.
Well, Mark just called me. He's like, oh, Mark already called you? Okay, never mind.
Oh.
I was like, wait, what? Because I'm only like 21. I didn't know what was going on either. I was like, oh, I didn't realize I had to pick. But, I think at the time Mark wanted to do like a band with a band name and tour and like write songs together. And I love, like I said, I was a big fan of John Mark, so I loved him too. But it seemed like I was happy with how it played out. It seemed like cool. And so we started calling it Public Radio. That was 2006, and we started hitting it pretty hard for the next most of my 20s was in that band. Yeah,
that's cool. Did you guys get to open for anyone pretty big, or what kind of? Did you get any traction with any labels at all?
Yeah, we did a lot of. So we would do stuff with John Mark a lot, which was fun. Like in the Charlotte scene. So we were really involved in the local scene. We went out to Germany and did a record out there for a month, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
And then all the major labels were kind of sniffing around Charlotte around the time because Paper Tongues just got a major label.
Yeah.
And so we were going out to LA probably like 5 or 6 times to showcase for majors. And it was always like the punk rocker in me is just like, meh, the whole time. Yeah. But it was really cool. We had some cool stories out of it, and but we never. I wouldn't say we ever got open for anybody too big that would, other than like some cool bands that would come through that we liked. But yeah, we kind of just we booked our own tours a lot, but hit it really hard. I think. In Charlotte, we got open for Blind Melon one time. That was cool.
Oh, that's pretty badass.
But it was like a reunion thing,
So it wasn't yeah, obviously the singer wasn't there.
Yeah, we just kind of hit it hard, and but our local shows were getting really big, which was cool.
That's awesome.
But then it started to. So yeah, that was most of my 20s, and then it started to fizzle out and slow down. And around that time. My buddy Lance was playing bass for John Mark, and he texted me and was like, yeah, man, I'm just I talked to John Mark, I'm not going to tour anymore, I just want to be home with my family more. And I was like, oh yeah, totally. And so I immediately texted John Mark and said, yo, let me play bass.
Nice.
And he said, okay.
That's amazing.
So that's how
incredible.
with him after, I guess, 6 or 7 years.
That's hysterical. That's cool though. It came a little full circle somewhat, starting out.
We would hang out a decent amount, and I think leading up to that we had started to hang out a little more, so it kind of was like all worked out well.
Yeah. So let's talk about since you obviously joined John Mark's band. Let's talk about the Borderland record that you played on. Amazing record. I love that record a lot. I mean, I love all his records, to be honest, but that one's a phenomenal record. I kind of want to know your thoughts on maybe on the recording, how it went for you, and maybe just overall your thoughts on that record.
Yeah, it was a really cool time to jump on board with him because he had just gotten kind of got out of his label and his management stuff after Economy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Economy's a fan favorite record, but I think because it didn't have a How He Loves on it, How He Loves 2.0, which is what the labels want probably. I think some people would kind of maybe even written him off a little bit, even though Economy is probably one of his best records still, it's one of my favorites. I think he gets all this stuff, but then he decides he's going to start his own label. So he actually did a Kickstarter for Borderland, and he got 3 times the money he wanted originally, and it was a big success. And I think the next day he had 10 missed calls from different labels that were.
Oh wow!
They're immediately all like, "Oh, that could have been our money," because they're. So. I think it was a really cool time because it was very DIY. He really knew it was going to be a good record, and he really believed in the songs. So he kind of bet. He really bet on himself.
Yeah.
It was. So it was cool going in. It was kind of we can do whatever we want because we don't have some label breathing on our neck. No one's expecting anything from this album. So I think going in with that kind of freedom for it was really fun. It was really cool time to be involved, and very, very grateful. So I got to play on, a lot of the record is kind of sub bass or maybe low end is from somewhere else. But we started jamming, and he had just written Future Past and Borderland, and hadn't fleshed them out yet. So I got to kind of sit with Borderland and come up with some ideas for it. And we had one practice and he dug what I did. So I think he was still maybe, at the time, no one used me to play on their records. I was a live guy because I have oh, you got good energy. You're the stage guy. That's cool.
You're the court jester.
Right, exactly. But it's until someone gives you a shot to play on a record,
you don't have,
you're not going to get comfortable in the studio until you do it a lot. And so I played on my band stuff, but I hadn't done any bigger albums at that point. And, and so I think even with John Mark, maybe he wasn't thinking Lance that had played before me was kind of working some of the bass on it already. And I don't think he was thinking I think he was probably just thinking I'll be the live guy,
Yeah.
He was stoked on what I came up with for Borderland and gave me a shot to record on it. And, which is very thankful for, and I thought it turned out really cool. And I'm really stoked on the bass line for it, and then I got to lay down some other kind of just simple up on some of them, but that was kind of the standout one for me. But then I would go hang out some when they were just doing some sessions, and it was just so cool. Just giving themselves little limitations, what if we didn't use any cymbals, for the whole record, unless we need them at the very end, And so it kind of made the drums and the bass have different kind of roles without everything going on. I don't know. It was really interesting. So it was a really cool time of my life because I was really bummed with bands ending, and I get to jump in this really kind of special time in John Mark's career.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, it was really it was a really exciting time for me because about 2 weeks after I sent him that text, or maybe a month, we did a 2-week tour up to Toronto and back.
Oh, nice.
So I had a month to get all of his songs down.
There you go.
A rock montage,
That's awesome. Did you wind up from, like you were mentioning, that you hadn't been given the opportunity to play bass? Was that kind of the beginning? So from there on out, is that kind of the way it is still, or are you playing on each record?
No. So I do a lot of recording now, and
that's awesome.
I think it's the thing is, like, some people just I'm always grateful for anybody that gives somebody a shot.
Totally.
And I always go to bat for people because of that. I'm like, no, like, trust me. This guy's going to be really great in the studio. He's got cool ideas. I'm jamming with him. Because, like, I needed somebody to do that for me. And thankfully, John was like, okay, well, he's got this one down live. He can lay it down. And, and now he, like, brings me in for everything.
It's amazing.
Because of that, we get, like, I do a lot of just recording at the house. I've got to play on, a ton of really cool records. Like, really stoked on it. I still prefer to be the live guy, but
sure.
But I love recording. It's like I love collaborating with people and writing parts. So so in a lot of ways, Borderland was kind of my first, like, I think, shot to be on a record and kind of like prove that I could do it a little bit.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, what's your favorite song? I'm assuming you're going to pick one of the ones you played bass on.
Not necessarily. I think my favorite, maybe because we never play it ever, is I think Silver Shore is one of the most beautiful songs.
Oh yeah, it's a great song.
And we did the outro of it as like a tag before to end the show, but we've never played the song.
Wow.
Yeah, live. It'd probably be either that one or Monsters Talk.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Those are my two faves.
That's awesome.
I think the Silver Shore, like, kind of bridge, chorus, whatever, the big sing-along part, I think that's one he's ever written.
Yeah. He's such a good songwriter. He's so good. Yeah. So how was the touring after that record? Was it bonkers?
Yeah, dude, we hit it so hard. It was awesome. To me, we were doing it in van and trailer. Because again, like I said,
you guys are hardcore.
Yeah. It was kind of like a rebuilding time for him in a way. So I think they didn't really know what kind of venues to book. They didn't know what kind of crowds were going to come out. Like, so it was really brutal tour in the sense, I mean, we just played a ton of shows, but all van and trailer, we were constantly, like, getting to crappy hotels at 2 a.m. And I was thinking about this the other day. With all the technological advances, somehow hotel lobby computers have not changed since, like, 1970. Because I swear it takes them like 2 hours to check you in every time.
Unbelievable.
And so we'd just be sitting there like, all right, we have to be on the road by 6 a.m. to make it to the next load-in on time.
What's the point?
We're just counting down the hours of, like, if I lay down right now, I can get 2 hours of sleep. And this guy's just like, click, 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 on the computer and trying to murder them. But then you're also like, well, there's a good chance I'm going to get murdered at this hotel tonight anyway. Just look at her. So it was a lot of driving, not much sleeping. But the shows were awesome. Like, the crowd was like, everybody was really into the new songs. They were really, I mean, I think the lineup we had for that tour, the musicians were like, we were just a really good band. Like, I feel like we were gigging a lot, but we practiced a lot. Like, so I feel like we just all were, like, really stoked to be out, and it was really good energy on stage. Yeah. Like, not just, like, in the sense, like, running around and jumping up and down, but just, like, we were, like, really stoked to be there.
Yeah, just all in the zone.
Came across to the crowd too, and so it was really special tour. Like, it was not much sleep, and we hit it really hard. But such great shows, and we did, like, Brazil on that tour cycle, like, twice, I think.
That's nuts.
We did some UK, we did Ireland. I think that was all the international stuff into that. We did a little bit of Canada, but we did the whole country, like, twice on that tour cycle, I think.
Did you see the crowds getting bigger as you went, or?
Yeah, definitely. And I think back then it's changed a lot, but we'll get to that, I guess. But I think then it was still a lot of the remnants of people that literally only knew How He Loves. Coming out, and, like, or maybe, like, some churches would book us and they would just think it would be this, like, chill, singer-songwriter worship night, and we would just play that song over and over. I don't know what they expected, but we came in like a bunch of pirates in this like beat up like trailer and van and like put on a rock show and but we played those songs still, like people got what they wanted. But I think we definitely did some venues where the rest of the set people were like, what is this? But no, you could definitely see the crowds were growing, and we were sprinkling in more clubs and bars and stuff.
Yeah,
as much as we could, and those shows were going really well too. And we were starting. I think that's when we were starting to really see like, some cats were comfortable seeing us at a bar, and some cats were comfortable seeing us at a club, and maybe not. Some were maybe not gonna overlap.
Yeah.
So we're starting to realize the importance of maybe doing both, or more kind of like theaters and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So I mean, every day was kind of like we had no idea what kind of venue we were going to show up to.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
So how long you said you toured twice around the U.S. Like, how long was that tour?
We would break it up into like 3 or 4 week chunks. And at one point we even made it all the way out west and did California, and we had we knew some friends that let us leave our van with them, and it was secure. And we flew back home for like 2 weeks for a break and flew back and started it and did the rest. So,
awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say for like 2 years, we were probably doing like 80 shows a year on that. And then, some fly dates kind of.
Sure. Sure.
So yeah, it felt like we played literally everywhere. And then towards the end of that is when we did the Live at the Night.
Yeah, that was an awesome night. That was so cool.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was. I remember being so nervous because I'm like, well, I have to play perfectly, but also they're filming it, so I got to try to look cool and put on a good show. And I'd never done both,
Yeah.
So I remember being so nervous, but I feel like it went like really well.
It sounds incredible. It looked incredible. It was awesome. It was like, yeah, I was stoked, man. Just all over. Like, I think Edwardson crushed it. Like, I think, dude, you guys. It was just it was a powerful night, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so too, man. It just felt like good vibes. So like, it felt like kind of a punctuation mark on the Borderland tour cycle too. So it kind of felt like a party to us. Like, like a great way to end like a rad couple of years.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So after that tour cycle ends, how long until you start working on Mercury and Lightning? Is there a gap at all, or is it just kind of business as usual? Or
pretty quickly, I think he started. So he decided he wanted to do it out in Portland with Gabe Wilson, producer. Had this rad studio downtown Vancouver, Washington, which is right across the bridge from Portland. Rad little town, cool studio with these apartments above it that the bands can stay in. And so he has kind of his like partner there, business partner, man, our studio partner, who knows. But he his name's Aaron Noddy, and he's like this mad scientist where like he can fix anything. And so
Aaron who?
Noddy, K-N-O-T-T.
Oh, I thought you said that. Oh, Aaron Noddy.
I don't know. Really, the other spelling of the name should be his like Instagram handle.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
But he finds all this incredible vintage gear and for like nothing because it's broken.
Yeah.
Is it? And so this studio just has like the kind of Mike Sinatra used and like just
That's
all
cool.
this old sexy gear. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
And so him and John Mark get to talking about doing the record, and they he decides to do it out there. So it's a long process because of flying back and forth, So he starts it, I feel like pretty shortly after the live album, but going out and doing demos. Then they would email stuff back and forth, but he really needed to be there for a lot of it. So yeah, I got to go out to Portland for like 2 weeks to do bass stuff for it, and it was a blast. We would just do 9 to 5 in the studio every day, and then go hang out in Portland at night.
That's cool.
So yeah, it took a long time to make the record, I think, because of the geography involved.
I bet.
But by the next year, it's getting close to being done, and we're about to go out and open for Need to Breathe for like 2.5 months, which was like a freaking blast. It was such a great tour.
Absolutely.
So he puts out Wilder Love, the first single, right before that tour, so we kind of have something new.
Sure.
So yeah, that was 2016, right? I think it's on my.
I think so. Yeah, about that.
Yeah, 2016. I have it framed. That's the
nice. I forgot you guys were on that tour. That's awesome.
Yeah,
it played here, but you guys weren't on that date. I don't think so.
Yeah, we didn't do the Florida leg for whatever reason. I think maybe because we'd already done almost 3 months, and it was going to be like a month off and then another one. And John Mark's like, I can't do it.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
And I get it. He's got kids. But it was so fun though. It felt like summer camp every night. Just like, But anywho, so yeah, we put out Wilder Love was the first single off that, and I think later 2016 we put out No Country off of that album, and maybe Enemy Love, but I don't think the full thing came out until 2017, and then we started touring it that spring. So it was almost, I think, from start to finish, almost 2 years.
Wow.
Seems, or at least a big year and a half.
What were your thoughts on that record? And since this is the first one you fully kind of got to immerse yourself in playing wise, what were your thoughts?
I thought it was awesome. I got the scratch tracks to some of them, and I do remember being very confused by Wilder Love. I'm like, what the heck song is this? Like, what is this song about? Like, I got a very bare bones demo from him, which he doesn't always do for every song, but I guess if he has it, he'll send it to me. I like to come up with some ideas, so I love to have something if I can. And so I got Wilder Love scratch track, and I'm like, I don't know how this song's gonna go.
Yeah.
But it ended up being, amazing. It's one of his most streamed songs. And once it started to come together, I got it.
Sure.
But I think I was with the demos I got ahead of time, I wasn't sure sonically totally where it was gonna go. But then he started referencing more, lots of references for the Talking Heads going into it, and 80s Bowie, and just a lot of cool vibey stuff he's listening to at the time. And so I kind of could get my head around the bass.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
I can see that now that you say that.
Yeah,
totally.
Especially this one song. I think he's going to put it out soon, but there was one that didn't make the record that is just this funky, groovy throwdown. I think we realized this doesn't really fit the album, but it's but it's cool.
Yeah.
So I put that out soon as hey, this was leftover.
Yeah.
But that was really cool. So with this one, and it's been kind of how he's done it since, for the most part, we started a lot of these songs just with drums.
Wow.
And, with his vocal melody. So some of them he had some words and some of them not.
Yeah.
Finished. And so there was a couple of them where it was literally just his scratch vocal and drums. And I was like, well, what progression are you thinking? They're like, well, I don't know. What do you think? So it was kind of it was super nerve wracking because it was but it was also oh, I could do anything on the song, but also oh God, I could do anything on this. What do I do? So we definitely lean more into for the most part on Mercury. It's a lot of just cool driving, pick bass. They had this, Gabe, the producer, man, his uncle had this 56 or 57 P bass, that Fender, and that he had found right before I flew in. And he was renting his uncle's house and found it in the closet. And they're like, oh my God. And so I got to play that on the whole record, which was crazy. It's
awesome.
$1,000 instrument,
That's cool.
And I flew out there with 3 basses and kind of ABCD'd them with it. And I was like, oh, they all sound like crap compared to this thing.
That's awesome though. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was super cool. So, I feel for the most part, on the album is pretty I think the bass is kind of just holding down the fort. There's some cool stuff here and there, but it's a lot of just kind of driving it, and was kind of the foundation for them to build the other stuff on, which To me, like, whenever you're recording or writing a song, it's always like, what does the song need? And Mike, who's like my hero, he always says, when you see a bathroom, you notice the tile, but you don't always notice the grout. But the grout's holding everything together. And he's like,
wow.
Like the bass is like the grout. He's like, we look good making everybody else look good. And that was kind of my thought with this record. It's more like, with a few exceptions of some kind of shinier moments, it's like No Country, I'm just like, palm muted, driving it the whole time. Kind of same with Mercury, or Wilder Love. So I feel like with this record, the bass is really the grout on it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other, lots of cool synth stuff that, like random instruments, like a gojing, that like Chinese instrument that he plays on it a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of were more of the stars of the show, I think, on this record. But that being said, there's some of my favorite songs to play live because I just love good, simple driving bass. So
yeah, it was a when I first heard it, I was like, whoa, this is like a different world, and I mean that in the best way possible. Yeah. I remember we were pressing the record at Vinyl Record Pressing in Jacksonville, and so I got to hear it a lot before it came out, and I was like, it's one of those records that just grows on you as you the more you hear it. It's like,
I think so too, man.
It's so good.
I think with the song Enemy Love, which is I think the kind of the fan favorite off of it, I based that off when we go into that song live, we get a really loud response,
Yeah.
Probably more than any other song off that album when we do it live. And to me, that song at first listen, I was like, yeah, it's really pretty, it's a cool song, but the more you hear it, the more it's like, man, this is like really good song.
I would agree with that. I think that whole record's that way. It's just like I think your ears or your mind's trained to one thing, and then when you hear something different, it's like, I don't know, is this supposed to be like this? And then it's one of those things where later on you're like, yeah, that is supposed to be like this. Like I just didn't catch up to it till now or whenever, Yeah.
And that was I think the album's been that way. I think it came out to really good response, but I think it's kind of gained momentum in that sense. I think it's not I think it's a multiple listen kind of album.
Totally. I agree with that.
I think Nothing Stands Between Us, the last track on it, I think it's one of his best songs.
Great song.
Yeah, it's so good. We lost our good friend and keyboard player recently, Larry, and he wanted almost every band he'd ever been in to play at his funeral, like all day hit music. And I only laugh because I was in almost all of those bands because he was in public radio also.
Yeah.
It's I was like, Larry, you're gonna make me have to learn like 100 songs. And it was really beautiful, heavy day. But with John Mark, he requested that we do Nothing Stands Between Us because that was his favorite. And I feel like it's really hard for us to play it now because we kind of like sprinkle it in the set occasionally, but like I think now more than ever, it's like anytime I hear it, it's just like I try to like ugly cry the whole time.
Dude, that's intense.
Yeah. But yeah, it's such a great song, but it's like, yeah, it's
heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Touring wise on that, how did that go? How were the shows for that? I mean, did you feel like they were bigger than Borderland, or do you think they're like it's just
that was a special time? That was my first time ever touring on a bus.
Oh yeah, now you've made it.
Yeah. So we got to do bus tours on this album cycle, and I was like, I never thought I would ever get to do that. And I was like, whatever, I'm a van guy, I'm pumped out. But like, oh, you can walk around and make yourself a sandwich, and we got a beer. Like, it's like, this is the best thing ever. The best sleep I get in my life is on a bunk in a tour bus, and the little casket time machine, and you wake up in venue, and but you stay up all night talking because we all happen to be very good friends in the band. So
yeah, it's great.
Man, I loved it so much. But the shows were getting really big, and we brought out a lighting guy for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Like rented like a really rad lighting setup, and so the shows all looked really freaking good too. I think it was the first time it felt like the most professional tour, because we're like a scrappy band, and we'll have some cool lights on stage, and I'll have a switch by my pedal board I can kick them on or something, you know?
Yeah.
And so having like blackouts in between songs, and like then the whole stage just goes to pink when we go into Enemy Love, or
That's awesome.
Man, it was so cool. So that was one of my favorite touring times for sure. I say that about all of them. They all had their pros and cons, but
sure.
That one just felt like good times, man. It was just like mostly clubs. Yeah, really, we had a good stage set up, and the set. I think we got a lot more like interesting songs out of the Mercury sessions, to where I feel like we're building like a really good set list, you know?
Yeah.
I would say those around the time it was less of the worship songs in the set, and more just like worship in the corporate sing-along sense, you know?
Sure.
Because that's a whole other conversation, but I think worship is music in general. But I think he was doing more of his songs that were, you know, not sing-alongs. And people were like really into it. That's when we started to see it change a lot too with the crowd. It was like a lot of like, yeah, just like really cool people that were like just really tracking what we're doing. They weren't like just saying,
they were just into it for the music, man. They just were into it.
Calling out for How He Loves their Skeleton Bones after every song, you know. They were there to
get old.
Yeah, oh man. But they were there to like see whatever we were gonna do, you know, and it felt really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we toured really hard on that record too, and I think that album cycle we did Australia.
Good God, that's awesome.
And, we did Europe again, or UK, and yeah, we just did the whole US like super hard, and yeah, it was awesome.
Sweet, dude.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song on that record?
Man, probably Unhaunted, or No Country is probably my favorite.
Yeah,
it's just like such a badass like Springsteen-y kind of song.
Yeah,
you know? And it was really cool recording it. I think it would have been a bigger song for him had it not come out during the one of the most divisive elections ever.
Yeah.
Because whoever won, because it's not about a politician at all. It's about refugees. Literally, I have no place to call my country. You know, it's about and this story he had heard about this cat in the Middle East kind of inspired it. And so I think it's this really beautiful song about like losing everything and trying to find some hope.
Yeah.
And immediately everybody's like, you know, when Trump won, everyone's like, oh, so you write this song because Trump won the election, you know? But if Hillary would have won it would have been the same thing. And it's like, no, it's not about American politics at all. But also because of that, a lot of people that didn't like Trump thought it was about him, and they loved it for that reason. Like, people tell us like, man, I put it on my playlist of like protest songs. It's so great. Like, oh, that's cool. It's not really what it's about either, but sure, you know.
That's hysterical. My gosh.
So yeah, he happened to already have that like written and planned to come out, and then it's like, oh, you know, we're the most divided the country's been in a long time, and it drops, and so everybody had an opinion on it.
God, so, that's hilarious.
I know, I think so, but I love that song so much. I think
it's a great song.
Yeah, it's super super badass.
That's sick. Cool, man. So that tour cycle ends. Things are going obviously pretty well. Next record, Peopled with Dreams. You know, kind of let's talk about that record and kind of how that materialized and how long, and then kind of your thoughts on that record as well.
Yeah. Trying to get all the timeline right in my head because it all kind of starts to blur together. So yeah, I played pretty shortly after. You know, we toured hard with that, and then with Mercury. I don't think we did another live thing around then, unless I'm blanking on something. So we started working on People with Dreams so John Mark built a studio in his basement for this one. Because he had just realized like going back and forth to Portland wasn't going to make sense. It just took so long. He in that time moved into a new house, and they started building a studio in the basement, and it's rad. And
I think I've been there I think we had like a pre-party or whatever for the night. I think it was he has a pool, right? Or
yeah,
pool.
Yeah.
And,
so he gets this rad studio in his basement, and we do People with Dreams there. And I feel like once it got started, once he kind of got the songs down, or like the basic ideas for him, I feel like it started to move really quick because he was so used to a studio being 3 hours away or on the other side of the country. Just being able to make your coffee and go downstairs every day, was really great. And Jacob Early engineered and kind of co-produced it with John Mark, and he's awesome, and he's a whiz with comps and edits. So like, things were just going so fast. It was great.
Jacob Arnold?
Jacob Early.
Oh, Early. Okay.
Yeah, he used to work with Elijah, who did the.
I know that name. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a student of Elijah, but he's a producer man in Charlotte, and he's amazing. So he kind of was turning knobs for that one, and had a lot of great ideas too. So it was fun. It was just like John Mark lives 10 minutes from me, so it was super easy to just go over to his house and
that's awesome.
Stuff out. And that was I'm trying to get it all wrapped together. That came out because I remember we had the tour ready to go before COVID.
So it'd been 2020 probably.
Yeah. So, but when did the full record, was the album out before COVID?
Maybe it did. It says it came out. It says it came out in 2020. So maybe it came out right before.
Maybe, or maybe it's just some of the singles that already come out. Well, because I remember I tested positive at one point and I had to cancel a session with him for it. But I'm wondering if that was just some singles instead. So anyway, sorry, I'm thinking out loud.
No, you're good.
But no, it was really cool. For this one, a lot of the influence was me and John Mark loved dub reggae, and like Lee Scratch Perry and a lot of the deep cut like dub cats. And I think we went into this record very much thinking about that stuff. And so All Things New is a big product of that, obviously, because that's like a very reggae kind of tune. I want to pull up and see all the track lists because I feel like there might be a cool one I'm not thinking of. But yeah, there was another one where we started it with drums and bass. But I think unlike Mercury, we wanted the bass to be like a little more featured and hooky on this one.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah, right. So, so there's there's a lot of really groovy songs and hooky bass songs on this record, and so it was cool again to have all that space.
Yeah.
But also the pressure of it. But it was Leo Solis did some of the bass on this one as well.
Love Leo.
Yeah, Leo's the best. And so me and him kind of split duty on this. I think because Leo did a lot of the keys and stuff, so he was kind of already there. They're like, oh, why don't you try, let's lay down some bass on this. So he did a couple of them. I think he did Christ Jesus. And I think for Juggernaut, they had some of my takes and some of his takes, and they kind of put them together.
Mishmash.
But yeah, it was a really fun record to do, man. Again, it was we got this new studio in the basement, and I thought the songs were really strong, even from demo form.
Yeah. There
wasn't any like, man, what's he thinking with this one or anything like that. I'm like, man, these songs are great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a fun way to do it to, like we really wanted the bass to shine on these, in that kind of reggae kind of way, but without not necessarily reggae bass lines, but like that's the first thing you hear with a lot of those tunes.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that was kind of our anchor point a lot, was looking back at that, and I love how they mixed it. I feel like the bass is like super in your face. And I think this is one of the first records I ever played on. Up to this point, my band's included, where I felt like it felt like me on the recording.
Wow, that's awesome.
And for some albums, that's the mixer's fault because they buried the bass, or I played really bright, like really bright strings, really aggressively, and some cats will just still like mix all that out. It just sounds like mud, and you can't hear it in the mix. And I think all the John Mark records I played on, it sounded good, but there's also the factor of me being comfortable enough to really play like me in the studio, not being nervous, Yeah. And to me, this record is one of the first times where I'm like, I think that sounds like how I play bass. It actually made it on the record. I didn't get bogged down in my brain. The mixer didn't mix all my personality out of it.
That's awesome, though.
That's cool. Yeah. So there's a few tunes on this where I really, really feel like it sounds like me. And I was really, really stoked on that,
That's awesome. It's definitely a departure record, even more so than, Mercury. I think it's a great record. Again, it was one of those where I was like, whoa, this is out of left field, but in a good way. Like,
yeah, I mean, it was really cool process. It's very keys heavy. It's, it's very basic, like piano and like synth heavy,
yeah.
Like the main instruments, which, a lot of people are into John Mark because they're like big guitar guys and they love economy. And so I think, this was like 2 or 3 albums in a row where they're like, where's my...
Do I like John Mark McMillan?
Yeah, where's my shred? And there's some great guitar moments on it too, but it's definitely, I think this is a bass player album for sure,
Dude, I think this record, it's just such a... Yeah, it's not what you would expect, but it's such a brilliant record. Like, I love that hearing that you are like, got to put shine on it. I think that's so cool, dude. That's, man, it's just cool to see the progression over the years, and you being able to put your finger on part of it. That's cool.
Yeah, man, thank you. Yeah, I agree. And, and then, so we had the record in the can. I'm blanking on like the month it came out, but anyway, we were getting ready for the tour, and day 5 of a 5-day rehearsal. So we got everything down, the lighting, the transitions, the set list. We find out the whole country is shut down.
Oh my!
Tour is canceled, and we're just all like heartbroken, and also like it was early into the whole thing. We don't know what the heck's going on, like, guys, it's got to get pushed back a month and then we'll get to hit the road. That's the stuff the managers are saying. Like, worst case, we'll do it in the fall. And I remember going to my friend's bar right from there just because I'm like, man, like, dude, I just had like a 2-month tour get canceled. Can I pick up a shift here? Because like I can't play music right now. And he's like, dude, absolutely, we got you. And then the next day I go into like bartend and they're like, dude, all the bars are shut down. And I was like, oh.
Unbelievable.
So I feel like, I'm really sad that the People with Dreams tour didn't get to happen for a lot of reasons, but by the time we could tour again, he had put out some new music, and I think the only time you can really tour an album and play a set list that's primarily features it is right when it drops, because that's when everybody just bought it, they're stoked on it.
Yep.
They haven't heard it yet, and they're coming to hear it. That's your time to like really push and showcase an album, and we lost that opportunity. And I think it would have I think the record's done well, but I think it would have done even better if people could see like
absolutely
live, because there's so many songs on that album we've never we were gonna play on that tour, but we never got to play live, like Christ Jesus and Unbroken Horses, Hammering Heart. We had all those ready to go on the set, but like we couldn't make room for them in the set with the new tour. So, yeah, I hate that we never got to do that tour justice. And, and Brother Larry was going to be on that one too. And it was such a fun time, like getting it all ready to go. And, those are hard songs on that record too. We worked really hard.
I bet.
So, obviously anybody can complain about a bajillion things going on with COVID, but yeah, I hate that album tour cycle didn't get to happen. Because I think it was, I think it's a really great album, and I hope people still, people still check it out. But
yeah, man, absolutely.
If you should.
Yeah, exactly. You heard it here first. so stupid.
From there, I mean, we were stuck. We're obviously stuck at home, so John Mark just started writing
Yeah.
For the next one, and that turned into a series of singles and an EP that's come out.
Yeah.
And we put out the Stable Sessions, which was the last show we played before COVID, was in London, and we recorded that.
That's so cool.
So it had a couple of those tunes on it, which was cool. But yeah, I think even more so the EP that followed it up with Roaring Thunder and Re-Enchanted World, all those songs, I think even more so than the last record, it felt like bass was featured even more.
Taking over, bro.
Yeah, so it was really cool. So I think what I said about it sounded like me on a record with people, and I think that newest EP, it's like kind of doubled down. And so yeah, I'm really grateful to play with an artist that like because I can play bass, however I can hold down the fort and play simple stuff and do what the song needs, but I love getting to play with someone that lets me be weird and experimental and prefer, even like, I think if at this point in his career, he doesn't want some guy just to come in and just groove on the root notes. Like, yeah. So, yeah, it's really shaped me as a bass player, having that freedom with someone, and so, yeah, it's been really cool, and I'm really stoked for the new batch of stuff too. I got to hear some of the ideas he's working on, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's cool to get to play with someone that like really encourages you to play out of the box,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's cool because it seems like you guys are on the same, level in terms of just creativity, which is awesome, and it helps you both,
Right, absolutely.
Sick, dude. Sweet. So, in this time frame, you started a record label, Four Finger Records. So, tell me kind of how that happened, and maybe what's going on with that label right now.
Yeah, so it kind of started somewhat comedically. With me and my serial collaborator, Leo Solis. So Leo. He's in a great band with his wife called Solis, and they're kind of like electro pop. She's got this incredible voice, kind of Portishead-y, Radiohead-y music. And then I was just starting a band at the time called the Rainiers with some friends. It's kind of alt country. And, we had to put together like a night or two at a local venue with some other friends. And, even with us being around for so long, it was feeling like it was kind of hard to book shows sometimes. And we're like, well, let's come up with a fake record label name. And it'll make it sound like we're maybe doing better than we are. Or maybe maybe a booking agent's more likely to open an email from Four Finger Records than from Jeremy Smith. And I was right, first of all.
I bet you were.
But then we started thinking, it's like, Leo's a producer and he's got a studio, and I've been doing DIY bands since I was a kid. Like, so I know how to print merch and book shows and print flyers and where to hang them up. And so we're like, well, let's do it for real, and let's make some cool merch. And we had some friends just starting bands, and they were all kind of younger. This band, The Will and Fortune Teller, and we hit them up like, hey, you want to be on this label we're starting, And we started doing like Four Finger Records showcases at local clubs here, and it would just be our friends' bands, like, because the way we started thinking about it was, Discord Records out of DC, which was Minor Threat, Fugazi. Their whole thing is we're documenting the DC music scene. They only work with bands from DC that are involved in the scene there. And we're like, well, let's kind of take that approach to it. And like, Charlotte really truly has a great music scene.
Absolutely.
And I think it would be hard pressed for us to document all of it, but we're like, maybe we can document our little corner of it, our little friend group. And so that's kind of been like the thought behind it, is like, we put out compilation tapes every few years. We throw a lot of shows. We've done a compilation 7-inch with a bunch of bands. But, COVID slowed it down a lot because a big thing of what we do is like throwing events and shows.
Yeah.
Thankfully, in the last year or so, it's kind of lived back to life, and we're getting to do that again. But yeah, it kind of all started as a kind of a joke, but it turned out I don't know, we got like 7 or 8 projects on it now. And then if any of the members from those bands start like a side project, they're immediately on it too.
That's awesome.
You know, and the hope is like, oh, maybe somebody like Solis, maybe they'll check out Fortune Teller or vice versa. And we can all promote. It's all just like a community thing. Like, let's all promote each other, you know, let's all bring each other up. And the response in the scene has been awesome. Like, the shows are always packed. Like, the merch always sells out. The tapes sell out. So I think especially because it is very like just Charlotte, I think people kind of maybe perk their ears up a little more. You know.
Well, I love the logo. I think the logo is so badass.
Yeah, Bridget Connell. She's I've known her for a long time, but she's a comic book artist. She's done a lot of stuff for like, I think she's currently working on a comic that's in like the Hellboy universe.
Oh wow.
For cool. Dark Horse, but she's done stuff for Marvel, and yeah, she's really great. So she did the logo for us. It's just perfect.
That's so cool. Yeah, it's totally you guys for sure. That's awesome. What you got? Any bands or records coming out soon at all? Or
the most recent was $1,000 Movie.
Sure, we were talking about that.
Yeah, and but our good friend Siege Hardy, who we've known, this Jordan Hardy's little brother. So
okay.
He was in that band Matrimony with those guys.
Yeah.
The follow-up to it, Bash. But he's been in band since he was like 12. You know, he's in his like probably late 20s now. But amazing songwriter. So he's working on his first solo album.
Cool.
And, he's got 2 singles out for it already, and they're so good. And he's been finally put a band together, and they're gigging around, and the shows are going killer. So his full length is coming out next. And we're really excited about that. It's really awesome. A couple months ago, G Moses put out his new album, and we did it with Four Finger, just helping him try to get some ears on it. You know,
it's great.
So yeah, and then Solis is busy working on their new album. So yeah, Siege and Solis are probably up next, and they're both very exciting projects.
That's cool, dude. Yeah. I love that. I'm so stoked for you.
Thanks, man. It's been a real joy, especially like helping out younger cats and like.
Oh, absolutely.
How you book shows. This is how you settle up at the end of the night. Don't let them.
I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, I really enjoy it a lot, because I wish I had somebody doing that for me when I was 20. You know? And so I just try to be that guy for them. You know.
That's awesome, man. Well, let's talk about $1,000 Movie. Like you just mentioned, love it. So badass. Such a great band. Such a great EP. So let's talk about how that kind of started.
Yeah.
And the new EP and kind of your thoughts on that, and then we'll close up.
Well, yeah. Much like Four Finger, it started somewhat comedically. I have a joke. If you want someone to leave town, have them start a band with me. Because every time I get a band with some momentum, somebody moves, and it's somebody I don't want to replace usually.
Aww.
And so, because I was in a punk band called Bad Talk for a while, the singer moves to Myrtle Beach, and then I moved to Charlotte, so I can't blame him completely. But I jokingly, if he listens to this, I love you. But within the rainy years, like everybody started getting busy and getting married and moving, and I was like, I love instrumental music. You know, you recently had Jonathan from Unwed Sailor on. They're one of my all-time favorite bands.
Amazing.
So me and Jesse Proctor, who
oh yeah, I know Jesse.
Proc, yeah. So he worked for John Mark through most of until probably a year or two ago. We started sending ideas back and forth for some bass riffs I had, and he sent me some drum tracks, and I would just write to him. It was just kind of like let's see what happens. And that was kind of the beginning of $1,000 Movie, because it was writing a lot of that kind of Unwed Sailor-esque kind of bass chord stuff. And he was thinking about maybe trying to use it for licensing, but we kind of kept getting weirder and weirder with it. And he's like, hey, I love this stuff. I don't think it's going to work for licensing or publishing. And I was like, well, that's fine. I love these songs, so I want to put a band together and play them live. And my thought was, yeah, I'll do this, because then I don't have to rely on a singer, first of all. Because I can write lyrics and melodies, but I can't sing for crap.
Sure.
So the idea of an instrumental band was really appealing to me. But then also, I wanted to have a band that could be as active as I want to be. So I felt like with this one, if my A squad guys couldn't do a show, and it was a show I really wanted to do, there's so many great musicians in Charlotte, I could have a bench to pull from.
That's cool.
You know? And like, for example, when Wood Sailor came through last year and all my guys were gone. And so I, hit up a drummer and a guitar player that had never played with us before, and they killed it. And it was a great show.
That's sick.
It's a little work to get everybody up to speed because the songs aren't that easy, but still I wanted something to where if everybody moved and had 13 kids, I could still have a band and not just start it again.
That's smart. That's very smart.
So that was kind of where it started. And we put out a series of singles, and our first show was December 2019. And I was super nervous because I'm like, man, we're an instrumental band that would mostly bass driven. Who's going to be into this? Why am I booking a show? No one's going to come to this. I was so nervous. But it went great. And honestly, maybe other than public radio, it's been the most successful in the local scene as far as turnout wise goes of any project I've ever done.
That's awesome.
And I don't say that in a bragging way. I say it I'm shocked way. I would have, Rainier's was all these sing-along country songs. I would have thought that would have done better than this, But we have a really open-minded scene here, and I think people like the experimental stuff maybe a little more. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we've been playing all around Carolina since 2019, and the shows go awesome. It's $1,000 Movie Live is one of my favorite things I've ever done. It's so. You
guys should come down here. I'll help you book a show.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I met this cat in Orlando that wanted to bring us down too. So I'm like, man, we could do a little Florida run. That would be So I'll be in touch. I'd love to do it sometime this year. But yeah, it's been going great. So we did a bunch of singles, and then I really wanted to I had an idea for Give Me a Year, which is the new album. And I really wanted to rent a studio and make it this cohesive thing and not just email the songs back and forth. Nothing wrong with that. I'm happy with how the songs turned out that we did that way. Mm-hmm. But we got to where we have such good energy live. Totally. I really wanted to capture that on a record. And I don't think you can do that outside of playing all together. So we cut it all live on the floor, minimal overdubs. Not all the songs are even on a click, so that way it's almost impossible to overdub. So
that's awesome.
And we did a Kickstarter for it, and it went really well. I was blown away by the support for it. And so, yeah, we got to rent a rad studio for a couple days, and I got to pay the boys for their time. And I went in. So Mike Watt was telling me about his first solo album, how he went in with this idea that if the bass player knew the songs, the band would be fine. And he would just kind of show them the songs the day of. And I wanted to kind of go in with that theory too. So with the exception of maybe one or two of the songs, we didn't do any pre-pro at all, which was really cool. And now it makes it easier that we don't have to cut vocals in the studio.
Sure.
But still, we knocked it all out in 2 days, and with a setup day. So yeah, we cut them all live on the floor, standing in a circle, and the boys just killed it. They brought up so many great ideas, and most of them were on the cuff because I'm just showing them the songs,
Yeah.
I think that could have sabotaged the record potentially, but I think it did give it this great in the moment energy that I'm really, really proud of. And I think That's awesome. Gave me the vibe that I really wanted. So yeah, I couldn't be happier with how it turned out.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Yeah, I love it. I sent it to a couple people, and they were like, "What? Who is this?" I was like, "Dude, check it out, bro."
And it's but I had a story for it. And it's all about kind of a concept album about moving to a new city, taking a chance on yourself as a kid, and
yeah.
And it's my story from what I did when I was 18. I moved to Charlotte, and going from Hartsville to Charlotte's like moving to freaking Manhattan. Yeah. It was terrifying, and but I've grown old here, and and it's home to me, and I love it so much. And I've been lucky enough to travel around the whole world, and I choose to live in Charlotte.
Charlotte's the bomb, dude. It really is.
It's just big enough. But I mean, the music community here is so important to me, and it's just always been a really special city to me. But I kind of wanted to maybe have a story like that maybe somebody did the same thing, but they moved to Chicago or LA. Or, it's funny hearing the interpretations actually from people, and I love to hear it, especially because most of the songs are named after streets or neighborhoods in CLT. And people are like, oh, did you write One More Year because you think you can only stay for one more year here? I'm like, no, I'm asking for I'm asking for one more year. I'm not ready to leave yet. Like every year I'm hoping I can pull it off another year, and it's been 20 now, but I'm hoping, I'm not ready to leave yet.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. You guys are playing with Unwed Sailor again soon, right? I thought I saw that.
Yeah. It was rad. It worked out last time because Public Radio got to play with them in 2006, actually. That would probably be my favorite band we ever got to play with. They were coming through, and I think me and Jonathan had kind of become social media homies a little bit. And he mentioned, I think he hit me up and asked if I had a club I'd recommend here. And so I recommended Petra's, which is my favorite spot in town. And so yeah, he was kind enough to say like, oh, if y'all want to play too, jump on. And I was like, yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Cool, man. He's like, me and him we're both big music nerds from like 80s hardcore and punk, and just talking about Mike Watt and the Minutemen a lot. And so yeah, he hit me up and he's like, I think we're coming back through Charlotte. I think we're gonna do Petra's again, so hit him up. And I was like, done deal. So
that's sweet, dude.
June 3rd, I believe, is a Saturday.
That's rad.
Here in Charlotte.
Isn't Chad from Hopesfall playing too, or his?
Yeah, he's from a band called Obscene.
Yeah, they're badass. He's badass.
Yeah, and it's also kind of instrumental post rock, so it's gonna be a cool night of music.
That's really awesome, man. I wish it was closer. Jonathan's like, you should come up. I was like,
I know.
I want to, but it's like, maybe, I don't know. Who's to say?
It's just far enough, yeah.
Dude, that is so cool. So tell me, I know we've just talked about a ton of stuff, but what's the future like for you, man? What's on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always getting ready for the next tour, the next record. In 2019, I did 160, 170 shows, and then in 2020, I did 2 shows, and so. That was my first time taking any time off from the road since I started. And it slowly went back to life, and it's getting busy. Like, we had a good year last year, but stuff's still slow. Lots of artists are kind of figuring out what's next and working on new records. And so, yeah, John Mark and Mack are 2 of my bigger touring artists, and they're both working on new albums this year. So not a lot of touring, unfortunately, unless something comes along. I hope so. So the bright side of that is I have plenty of time to work on my projects. So
sure.
Doing a lot of hired gun studio work, and then just trying to promote the $1,000 movie record as much as possible. I really, once I find out for sure what's going on in the fall, I really want to book a fall tour for us, and maybe just go down 95 and hit some season. So yeah, what's next for me is we're gonna probably start on the new $1,000 movie soon, and but hopefully just playing shows in everybody's town.
That's exciting.
That's
awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
Dude, I've really enjoyed this conversation, man. It's so good to catch up. I love you. You're awesome.
Yeah, it's
good hangs.
Always good to talk to you, man. I really appreciate you having me aboard.
Yeah, man. Also, I'll let you know when I post this, but awesome. Thanks so much for your time, dude.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me on.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good to me. Go.
Hey, thank you, the listener, for tuning in to this latest episode. I'd also like to thank Jeremy Smith for his time. An amazing dude, amazing artist. So cool to hear these cool stories and his thoughts and perspectives. Really stoked on it. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Super stoked for the future for the podcast as well. Got some amazing artists lined up. Add me on Instagram and Facebook if you'd like. They're at The Rumors Are True Cast. Yes, like and subscribe if you like. You know the drill. All right, guys. Talk to you soon. Peace.